Good morning. This is Momo Knows. I went to the rally over the weekend in Mount Greenwood for Back to Blue. What a great event. There had to be at least 1,000 people there. The crowd stretched at least a half a city block in the rain and marched about 3/4 of a mile down to where everybody was, and everyone took off. A lot of people stayed in this little area. But for the most part, people had to leave because we're soaking wet. I was with Mike Frizzalone. He's a candidate for Congress. And people were real happy to see him there. Mike was talking to everybody. And, they don't like his opponent, who happens to be a complete out-and-out socialist, an AOC-backed communist. I don't know another word for it. That's one thing that's going on. Then I was thinking about it this morning. Well, Sweden is doing real well. They never, ever locked down. And they're doing better than all the other countries in Europe. So the question is, why is it that Sweden can be doing so well when they never locked down? And everyone else falls into the category of getting duped by Dr. Jerko Fauci. In other words, Dr. Fauci, who's a puppet for the Chinese government, didn't tell anybody that it was dangerous until he absolutely had to. And then when he did, he pushed the idea to the whole world that if you don't lock down, your people are going to die. Well, what guy or woman that's running a country is going to say, I'm not going to do nothing? So they're afraid because the National Institute of Health, that's supposed to be a big deal. The World Health Organization, that's a big deal. The CDC, all these doctors say, shut down. There was no consideration given by anybody about the consequence of shutting down. The consequences is so far much worse from the shutdown. The suicide rate's going up. The domestic abuse is going up. Child abuse is going up. People lost their jobs. Now they can't pay their rent. So where are they going to go? Is the government going to continue to hand them money? I mean, that's what AOC and Mike Frizzalone's opponent want. They want the government to give you free money. They believe in socialism and communism. But there's a point when the government runs out of money. And then what happens? You become like Venezuela, like Cuba. Even the old Russia is gone. Russia is now playing in the markets. Chinese, they use communism and capitalism. Our people want to go back to the good old-fashioned socialism. Everything's free. And it's pissing me off. And the doctors are pissing me off. Because if you're a doctor, you're supposed to care about the health of your people that you're seeing. Now, I'm seeing things on television of individual doctors that are getting up and saying that hydroxychloroquine works. The Jerko Fauci in 2005, as the head of the National Institute of Health, said that hydroxychloroquine would work as a therapeutic and a cure, a vaccine. That was in 2005. Fast forward to today, it don't work. It's bad. You could get a heart attack. You could die, despite that everybody's been taking it for God knows how many years for other diseases. Malaria, that's the main thing they use. So are we going to cower in our shoes? Are we going to sit there and listen to these guidelines that these governors put in and mayors and other people, and they say, you must, you must, you must. I'm a friggin' American. I got the Bill of Rights. I have the right of assembly. I have the right of free speech. I have the right to carry a gun. I have the right for a lot of stuff. And a lot of people that I don't know, because it goes back to before the 1776. A lot of people died for us to have what we've got, that Constitution. A lot of people shed their blood. And now they're supposed to go by the wayside. and I'm Italian, and I look at this Columbus thing, this drives me nuts. In 1492, there were slaves. There were a whole bunch of Jewish slaves at one point. There were white slaves at one point. There were black slaves too. And in 1619, the first slave owner in the United States happened to be a black guy. So, I mean, this is nuts. You can't change the way people lived hundreds of years ago. So if you don't agree with it, that's fine. I don't agree with it. Yay. So what? It happened. We've got to get smart. We've got to stand up to the government and say, no, we don't like these stupid guidelines. If we did like Sweden and we never locked down, we'd probably be way better off. This is insanity, real insanity. And we're not supposed to be afraid. Fear is the biggest problem of all. If you do something the government don't like, you have to fear them. The hell with them, they gotta fear us. We the people vote for them. So now they want to fix the elections and start with the mail-in voting. You say, well, it's good. Well, mail-in voting might be good. If it's an early vote where you have to go and you have to do it yourself, they're sending out ballots to everybody, and not ballots, application for ballots, and people are getting 5 and 6 of them. So now what? How do we know who is filling out what and where, and how do we know the mail, which is pretty bad in a lot of cities? Where I live, it's good. But I was in Mount Greenwood, they said it's horrible. They said it takes a week to get their mail if they get it, so they have to wait in line at the post office to get their mail. So look, we as a country got to wake up. Father Tom Loya spoke at a protest fundraiser we had in Homer Glen, and he said, fear is the worst enemy. We are not to be afraid. And with that, I end. But be not afraid. God's with us. God bless you.